Welcome to 1111, which is a segment from my podcast where I talk about a topic for 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Today's topic is about disappointment. I've been feeling like a big disappointment, and I'm playing. I'm kidding. I'm joking. It's a joke. I have been having a lot of experiences, a lot of conversations with with my mom about, me being my own person. And I feel like the word disappointment has been thrown around. And I feel like the definition of disappointment has been used describing me. So I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this. I feel like disappointment. I genuinely, honestly, I as long as I'm doing what makes me happy, and I'm not harming anyone, and I'm not harming you, and I'm not stopping you from living your life, I don't consider myself a disappointment. I genuinely don't think that me doing what makes me happy and me creating boundaries and me setting my own rules about how I want to govern my life is a disappointment. I genuinely think that me being first generation is a little bit harder just because I think there's certain type of there's this stigma that you have to follow being a first generation kid. I feel like there's some rules and some things that you just don't do when you're a first generation kid. I feel like being yourself, being doing what you love and stuff like that isn't really, you know, very is not a prideful moment for parents, for immigrant parents. I feel like they want, they want their kid to just follow their specific mold. And when you start breaking that mold that they want for you, they kind of feel attacked, and they feel very uh I feel like my parents are just very confused as to why I'm not like my siblings, or as to why I'm quote unquote this black sheep, which is such a weird term because I don't think there's anything black sheep of, me doing what I love and me choosing to create my own boundaries and me creating my own rules. I feel like that's kind of like applauding a fish for swimming. Like, yes, we're supposed to do this. Like, we're supposed to follow on rules, and we're supposed to, like, do what our heart and brain desires and what our soul desires, and listening and following our intuition, and doing all of these things. Like, I don't understand. I sometimes don't understand. Like, I feel like a big part of disappointment is having expectations. I feel like having expectations for your kids is so weird. Like, why would you expect your kids to follow this sort of stigma that you want for them when you don't even know how they're gonna develop? You don't know how their brain works. You don't know how their life experiences are going to change. I feel like there has, I like my 2 years in public high school. I did do some things that can be quote unquote disappointing to some parents, but I kind of got rid of that mindset. I kind of like I got rid of the word disappointment in my vocabulary and in my mind, because I don't think there is disappointment. I think there's life lessons, and I think there's a form of learning that evolves, and that it is. I don't think it's disappointment when you have, like, when you're going through life and you either mess up, or you do things that you're not very proud of a year later. I genuinely think that that's a beautiful life lesson, and you should flip it around and not allow it to become a disappointment. And if it is a disappointment for you, that's totally valid. I don't think other people should classify you as a disappointment, though. Coming from experience, I feel like my parents most definitely have, and it's one of the worst feelings ever. Like, it feels horrible. It feels like you kind of have failed as a human being, because you hold your parents in this high sort of freaking horse, and when they tell you that you're a disappointment, it's just like, oh, well, I kind of just failed at my only job. But in all reality, they're just, they're speaking from their experiences, and they're speaking from their brain, and they're speaking to what's a disappointment for them, because what's a disappointment for them may be a pride moment for other parents. And I think, when you come into terms with your own sexuality, and when you come into terms with your own belief system, and when you come into terms with your own brain and your own mind and your own soul, and you start to create your own life, I don't think that's a disappointment. I don't think it's a disappointment when you don't rely on your parents and you're becoming independent. I think it's one of the most beautiful things and interesting things that can happen to a human being. I feel like you're evolving, and I think that's beautiful, and I feel like that should be celebrated. But I feel like I've gone through, like, recently, I've gone through a lot of stages where I'm creating my own life and I'm creating my own path and I'm creating my own decisions apart from my parents, that they feel like it's a disappointment, that they not tell me directly, but they tell me indirectly, and I know how that's how they feel, because I can, you can tell, and it just makes you feel horrible. And it's like me realizing this, and me realizing, like, no, I'm not a disappointment. No one's a disappointment, because we're all just learning as we go. Like, you're not a disappointment just because we're doing quote unquote things that our parents are proud of. Most of these things that we're doing right now is something that our parents wish they could do in their time. I feel like we're cycle breakers. I think cycle breakers are a big quote unquote disappointment for parents. I feel like instead of parents viewing them as cycle breakers, they view them as disappointments, because they want us to follow this direct path of, like, you have to, be uh socially, normal, quote unquote normal. You have to follow these certain guidelines. You have to do these things that everyone else is doing, because the it's the norm. Like, it's just normal. And when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, your parents don't know how to react to that. I feel like I've seen my parents just not know what to do when they see me, being my own person and building my own routines. I feel like my parents kind of thrive off of that codependency, and me becoming my own person. They're just like, wow, I need to find a way to attack him, to make him feel like he's doing something wrong. And that's when the disappointment conversations come in. And I feel like I've kind of learned to block that, and I've learned to be like, you know what, I'm not a disappointment. I am doing what makes me happy. I am creating art. I'm creating things that bring me joy and that bring me happiness. So why would I be considered disappointment? I also feel like it goes along as well with school. I feel like disappointment in, like, grades and in, whatever you're learning, and test grades and stuff like that, it can feel like you're a disappointment when you don't get a good grade. But honestly, there's so much in our brain that it's so hard to focus on schoolwork or acing a test when literally there's so many other more factors going on around us at all times at full speed, that it's like, okay, yeah, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to ace this math test. There's a little We're literally fighting for human rights as we speak. So it's just like, it's just really crazy to me how all of these things have socially made us feel like we're disappointments, when in all reality we're just trying to survive, and we're just trying to do what makes us happy and what makes us feel alive. And like I said, I stopped using the word disappointment. I just stopped allowing even hearing that word. I blocked that word. I'm like, I'm not a disappointment. No one is a disappointment. Absolutely no one is a disappointment. If you're doing what makes you happy and you're not harming anyone, and you're finding inner peace, that is not a disappointment. That is a victory. That is literally your soul's purpose. Like, the purpose of your soul is to do what makes you happy and to find inner peace. That is literally what the universe asks from us. That's how I want to live my life. I want to live my life doing what makes me happy, regardless if it makes my mom happy, regardless if it makes my sisters happy, my siblings happy, my dad happy, anybody else happy. Like, I'm going to do things that make me happy, regardless if you like it or not, because at the end of the day, I have to live with myself and I have to live with my life. And if it's a quote unquote disappointment for you, but it's making me happy, then I don't care. I truly do not care, because this is not the death of me. I'm going to still keep on doing what makes me happy, even if you don't like it. So it's just like kind of coming into terms with always being in, like, always realizing that whatever your parents say isn't necessarily true. Just because they're human beings just like us, they mess up just like us. I'm not excusing their behavior, because they are older, and they should have a lot of more time to heal. But sometimes we do kind of have to just be the bigger person and just be like, you know what? You really don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to allow your choice of words affect me mentally, and you're not going to affect my energy because my energy is divine. So, whatever you say is literally just projecting. I sometimes feel like our generation is our ancestors' wildest dreams. I'm genuinely so proud of my generation, and I've seen a lot of boomers and like millennials describe this generation as a disappointment, and I genuinely can't see that. I feel like our generation is so amazing. It's one of the most insane, beautiful generations ever to exist. If you focus on the positive, I feel like we lead with so much confidence. We talk a lot about mental health. I feel like we worry a lot about, how we're feeling and how we're going. I feel like I've, listening to this generation's mind and thoughts and their essays and stuff, I feel like I've learned to listen to my body, and I've learned how to find my inner peace and stuff from Gen Z. So I just want to say, like, you're not a disappointment. Absolutely, under zero circumstances. You are doing what makes you happy, and that's all that matters. I love you so much. Bye.